And you are listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM. I'm Luke Rainey, as always, joined by Andrew Mercier and Luke Hillegass here from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, on Shippensburg University's campus. And this week we have another guest from Phi Sig. It is Ashlynn Gill. Ashlynn Gill, you joined Phi Sig, I think, last year, you said, and you are the Panhellenic delegate for the sorority. So, Ashlynn, it is great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here, talk to you all about Greek and anything that you're wondering about me.
Of course. Well, I know you're very involved on campus outside of Greek life, but obviously I think we need to start off by asking about your Greek experience. So, how did you come to join a sorority? How did you come to join Phi Sig? What did that road look like for you?
Yeah, so I joined Phi Sig in the spring of 2024. I actually joined because of somebody who I worked with. Also, I knew a few Phi Sigs who played rugby with me. So ultimately, I was like, yeah, I know a lot of people within the sorority. And I did something called COB, which is continuous open bidding. And that basically is wherever sororities reach out to people and ask if they would like to do coffee dates with girls to learn more about what the sorority is, what the philanthropy is for the sorority. And yeah, I really enjoyed my first coffee date. And after that, I told them that I would like to accept a bid from them.
And then eventually you go through that new member process and become a sister at the end of that semester. Is that my understanding?
Yeah. So we do little new member education trainings. So we do every Sunday for a few weeks. We were taught a series of different information just so that we were understanding what the organization was that we were joining.
Yeah, so beyond that, though, in addition to Greek life, I kind of talked about earlier, you're involved in a number of different ways on campus. I think you said you work, right? So you're at the information desk.
Absolutely,
yes.
Yep. Yeah, I'm at the information desk. I'm one of the student managers there. So my area is the game zone. So I do all the scheduling for the game zone. I do pretty much all the training for the game zone. Any concerns with the game zone I deal with. But in addition to that, I also have 2 weekly manager shifts that I work that are about 4 to 5 hours, where we just print IDs, make sure that the rooms are good, the setups are good, making sure that rooms are unlocked for people to use. But yes, that's definitely one of my biggest positions on campus. But in addition to being a cub manager, I am on SGA. I'm the Panhellenic Senator for SGA. And also within Phi Sig, as you mentioned, I am the Panhellenic delegate. So I do have to go to all of the Panhellenic meetings, which are a blast, and I do enjoy being on the Panhellenic Council for that.
Wow, there's a lot of different things going on there. So I want to go to your SGA experience. So talk to me about that public service aspect, representing the university and representing the Panhell in that capacity. What is that like?
Yeah, so I recently just was sworn into SGA about 3 to 4 weeks ago. So within my time so far, we've had a few different caucus meetings, which basically is kind of like a chapter meeting in Greek terms. So we kind of just all sit around the table in the SGA office, and we just discuss different things, which each senator is representing a different area of the university, which I think is really interesting. So you have a lot of diversity within SGA. But I haven't had too much experience yet. I've only done one public meeting, which was definitely nerve-wracking, but it went pretty well, I think.
Right, it's a good public speaking opportunity because I know they rotate that microphone around and you have that report to give. Just kind of give those updates. So how do you come up with the reports then? Do you just simply say at Panhell, like, hey, I need information coming into this, or how does that come about?
Yeah, so being on the Panhellenic Council, being the Panhell delegate, I do get the reports already sent to me. So I have just like this big sheet of everybody's reports, and I just kind of pick the pieces that are really important, the dates, anything that we're doing within the community that's open to students to go to. I report on that kind of stuff. But also I do reach out to other e-board members and ask if there's anything that they want me to include specifically.
All right, yeah, it makes sense. And you haven't talked about this yet, but you are a student athlete, is that correct?
Technically, I'm a club athlete, so I play rugby, which is a club sport.
Okay. Yeah. Club sport. Okay. I didn't know if that was like sanctioned, like it was actual like NCAA division, or if it was just a club thing. But nonetheless, have you been doing that since you came to Ship, or when did you get involved in rugby?
Yeah, so I just joined rugby my freshman year. I did powerlifting all through high school, so I knew that I wanted to do some kind of sport. Whenever I came to Shippensburg, I wasn't necessarily sure what exactly that would be, but I went to the activities fair and met a bunch of the girls there, and they were all really, really sweet and very welcoming. And that was the first organization that I joined since coming to Shippensburg. And since then, I've loved every minute of it. I think that we really have a good family within the women's rugby team, and it's so fun.
Tell me about rugby. Talk about how does rugby work as far as a contest is concerned? Because I know it's a very aggressive sport. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
How does one score in rugby?
Yeah, so rugby, scoring-wise, is pretty similar to football. We play on a field that's about the same distance as a football field, but you have to play backwards. So the only moves that you can make are throwing it almost at a diagonal, and then different, scrums will come up or different offsides will come up, so that leads to different changes within the game. But ultimately, to score, once you get to, it's called the try zone. You just touch the ball down, and that's considered a try. And then, just like football, you do have the opportunity to kick. However, it's from where you touch down on the try zone. So if you're all the way in the back corner, you're going to be kicking all the way from the back corner. If you're smack in the middle of the uprights, you're going to be kicking right to the uprights, and it's perfect.
So there are uprights then that you still would use in the rugby. Okay, yeah. Interesting. What's a common ending score in a game of rugby? Because in football, you think 24-21, that type of thing. What does an average rugby score look like?
Yeah, so we have 2 different seasons, which kind of determine our score a little bit. So my very first game, we played a 15 season, so that means there's 15 people on the field, and you're playing an 80-minute game, 40-minute halves, so you have a 10-minute break in the middle.
Yeah.
But that game was one of our worst games I've ever played, and we finished that game, I think it was 0 to 60-something.
Oh, my gosh.
It was a horrible, horrible game, but then again, we had a lot of new players, and we were just getting, used to the game, so that was not our best game, but we have definitely had more sevens games in the spring that are closer to 17 to 25, I would say, normally is scoring for each team.
Okay.
I have seen some higher scores, but it just depends.
And it's 1 point per score?
So every try is 5 points, and then every kick is 2 points. So you have up to 7 points that you can earn for each try.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten any injuries during, while playing that? Because, like I said earlier, I know there's a lot of tackling that goes on. You talk about those backwards passes, which in football term, that's a lateral.
Yes.
So, that's laterals in the NFL are always, or any form of football, are always extremely dangerous. Just for that reason, you get those scrums that end up happening if the ball goes out of control. Have you ever gotten hurt?
So I've actually had a few injuries with our practices, but I've never got hurt within a game. My most recent injury was during a tackling drill. I was dropped on my head, so I did sustain a concussion. That was pretty painful, but that was pretty minor out of the injuries I have seen. I also sprained my ankle pretty badly whenever 2 girls went in for a tackle, and we both kind of landed on my ankle. So that was pretty painful, but I've definitely seen eyebrows sliced open. I've seen noses cut. I've seen lots of different injuries with blood involved, but thankfully none of those for me.
Yeah, at least not yet. Knock on wood there.
Yes.
Do you follow rugby professionally? Do you know the top rugby athletes out there in the world, or?
I don't follow it too much right now. I did watch a little bit while the Olympics were going on, just because I know that was very, very popular at the time. But I don't follow it too much regularly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it's cool to see you be able to have that type of sport, that type of community that comes from playing a club activity. have you ever traveled to a different campus for that? Has that happened? Or, okay, where all have you gone?
Yeah, so we normally play York, Gettysburg. We've been up to East Stroudsburg, Scranton. So definitely within like the central Pennsylvania area, give or take a little bit. But we do travel pretty much every Saturday during season. I know this year we had, I believe, 6 games this semester where we were traveling. And then we also did host a home game. But we normally do games all spread out rather than many home games. It's a big expense to host home games. We have to get the refs. It's a lot of organizational things that if other campuses are willing to host, we are willing to come and play.
So it's up to you as a team if you're going to host an event as far as getting all that ready.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's definitely difficult to, we don't have necessarily a coach anymore. Our coach recently retired. So this season was definitely a challenge in many ways, trying to communicate with all of our e-board and find out how we were going to do these things, how to move forward from where we were at.
Is it co-ed or is it split? Because I know there's a men's rugby team. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
there is a men's rugby team, and we are split. I believe the men's are in a similar boat also with their coaching. It's definitely hard with rugby as not a very common United States sport.
Yeah.
So trying to find people who are interested in coaching, interested in playing is very hard.
I'll find the money for an international trip. I think that would be pretty cool.
That
to do.
would be very cool. I would definitely appreciate that.
Well, it's late April right now, so obviously for any college student, it's a bit of it is crunch time, is as stressful as it can probably be. So you mentioned SGA, you mentioned your job, you mentioned Phi Sig, you mentioned rugby, and all of that to be said, you're also taking classes. So how are you juggling everything all at once?
Yeah, it is definitely hard. But Fridays are one of my favorite days in a way because I don't have any classes, but also one of my most stressful days because I do try to play catch up on Fridays. So today I have hours planned that I will be studying and catching up all my homework from this past week. It's definitely been a stressful week. We have a alumni day event for rugby tomorrow, so I've been stressed out trying to plan that all week. But today is definitely one of my catch-up days, and I'm very organized with my calendars, also trying to make sure I'm reaching all those deadlines as well.
Yeah, that's kind of ironic you talk about the alumni for rugby because tomorrow for Kappa Sigma, we're actually having our Founders Day. So I don't know if Phi Sig has an equivalent to this, but like the day that we became established at Shippensburg University, it was April 27th, 1969. So we are celebrating 56 years tomorrow. So it's an extremely great event for us. A lot of alums have said that they're going to be coming. It's a great way to share that and celebrate a year full of successes, which I'm sure Andrew and Luke are going to talk about here as we transition into them. But what does that Alumni Day preparation organization look like?
Yeah, so for rugby, we normally do an annual alumni versus player match. So I had to kind of get a little bit of attendance from our alum who wanted to do this, who is willing to do this. Are you able to come to our event at all, kind of thing. So definitely communicating with them, and all of our alum are very Facebook savvy and I'm not. So trying to communicate with them, put out polls for them to be able to communicate back to us if they are able to come. So that was definitely a big piece of it, but also I needed to get different equipment. So I know we have to get some pop-up tents, we have to do some cornhole boards, can jam, different things, because our alum do have kids and like to bring their kids. So we have to have something that's a little bit kid-friendly as well. But we also do a big cookout, so that's just like a good time for everybody just to come together. I think we're doing hot dogs and hamburgers like we normally do. And we also have raffle baskets during that time for alumni to bid on and to possibly take home a nice big prize.
Yeah, well, and it's always days like this though, like where we're doing a lot of weather watching on our end because I don't know how what day rugby has done this in years past, but for us we have had rain the past 2 years and we might be looking at a third year in a row with rain again.
Yeah,
so.
I was a little nervous when I saw that weather, but I do know from playing the sport that a little rain has never kept anybody away. We have played in the rain. We've played in the pouring down rain. So I'm hopeful that it will stay away for when we are eating, but if it rains a little bit during the game, that's no
fine.
big deal.
And even then, I mean, this area could use a little bit of rain right now. For those who don't know, there is a wildfire that's actually sprung up in Cumberland County near the campus. So obviously we are hoping for the best with that situation. But nonetheless, Ashlynn, good talking to you. I'm going to hand it over to Andrew Mercier in a moment. He's going to have a lot of good questions for you. But nonetheless, you are listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM for interesting conversation featuring all faces from Greek life, hosted by Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, and Luke Hillegass, always joined by special guests. We'll be back in just a second.
I've been really excited for this one. I remember asking you earlier in the library if you wanted to come on, and the three of us have talked about you as a good potential guest. So I kind of like to take an approach of, looking at Shippensburg as a whole and talking about it, your personal story of how you ended up here. Because everyone at the end of the day has different stories. So when you were coming out of high school, were you considering going to college? Was that always your plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to Hershey High School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, about an hour 15 up 81. Very easy commute to Shippensburg. And pretty much after graduating, I always knew that I wanted to go to college. I wasn't exactly sure where. I looked into a lot of different schools within central Pennsylvania, but I did also branch it out a little bit because I knew I wanted to be within driving distance to home, but far enough that I didn't have to feel like I had to go back every single weekend.
So you mentioned that you went to Hershey High School. So is that the Milton Hershey High School, or which one? I know that there's a Milton Hershey school. So which one is that? Yeah,
so there are two schools in Hershey. You are correct. We have Milton Hershey, and we also have Hershey High School. So Milton Hershey is a completely nonprofit school where anybody can go if they are in a bad situation, if they're struggling financially, things like that. I shouldn't say anybody should go. I believe you do have to apply and be accepted into the school, but they don't generally turn down applications. I went to Hershey High School, which is the public high school in Hershey, not Milton Hershey.
So how far, perspective-wise, how far is that from the park?
From the park, my school was probably within 2 miles, I would say. There was definitely many times that we used to bike from school straight to Hershey Park on the last day of school, or we would bike downtown and get food with my friends and things like that. But it definitely was unique growing up in a town where there is a theme park literally in your backyard.
So, I've spoken to other people about that, people that are from the area. Is it something that, kind of gets old in a sense of, because obviously for people that, like me, for an example, being from Maryland, Hershey Park's always been the big amusement park that my family and I would go to. I'd go once or twice a summer. But with you being right there, is it something that you're it's cool, I guess?
Yeah, so growing up, it was great. I loved that they were always renovating the park and they always had something new, which was really, really nice. However, I did get a job at Hershey Park, so then it very quickly, the glory of it did die down. I worked in food and beverage there for about 5.5 years, so it was a good time that I worked there, and the foods kind of ruined it a little bit just because you were stuck with a fryer, and it was hot and sweaty, and it was kind of gross sometimes, but I still enjoyed going into the park on my days off. My family and I, we grew up going to the park, and my family always had season pass holders. So whenever my brother and I both started working at Hershey Park, we kind of went in together sometimes after our shifts, but not as much as I did whenever I was younger.
So, what are the rules in terms of, obviously if you work, do you get any type of benefits in regards to passes or, maybe, money off on tickets or something like that? What do they offer?
Hershey treats their employees super, super well, I have to say. Every employee got a free pass, so our IDs worked as a season pass, essentially. We also got, I believe, 15% off of food and beverage and things like that. But one of my favorite things that Hershey did for us was they had a sister program. So we got into a ton of amusement parks, Knoebels being one of them, which is up in Elysburg, Pennsylvania. It was one of my favorite places to go growing up, and we were able to get in there for free, and we were also able to bring a guest in for free, which was super nice too. They also have a little pool boardwalk kind of area. I'm not exactly sure what they call it, but you were also able to get tickets for that, which is normally an extra expense as well.
Yeah. Lindsay, my girlfriend that was just in here, she actually just recently got offered and accepted a internship at Knoebels. So it's funny that you bring that up. But obviously, I think they give you different vibes. Like Knoebels is much more like laid back and more like it's in the woods, much more in the breeze. You're in the shade. But I see on the notes you mentioned Pashy schools. Mm-hmm. What does that necessarily mean? And then you talked about Millersville and Kutztown.
Yeah, so whenever I was trying to choose where to come to SHIP, I knew that I wanted something within the Pashy schools. Definitely Millersville, Kutztown I was looking at a lot, but Shippensburg essentially was where I was drawn. My grandparents are from Shippensburg and from the area, so it was definitely easy for me to find the campus since I already knew about the town. Not to mention my dad actually also went to Shippensburg High School. My grandpa taught at Shippensburg High School, so I have a pretty big connection with Shippensburg itself. And whenever I was trying to find a school on where to go, I started with the Pashy school systems just because I know that being in a state school is pretty nice. There's a lot to do. And I definitely am glad that I did end up at Shippensburg. I found definitely a good group of people. I mean, as you are aware, I'm involved in a lot here, so it's definitely I was able to find my place pretty well.
Yes, I mean, you talked about being involved. So we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier about your involvement with the info desk and you being a student manager. How did that happen? Like, what sparked your interest in terms of working for, getting an on-campus job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so coming to an on-campus job, I already live on campus, so I was like, it would be super nice. I just walk there. It's pretty much right there. I'm already going to be in the building half of the time, which is the City of Union building, which I work at. But coming to the student manager position, I actually was referred by our office manager who has recently left her position, Amy, but she told me after my very first semester working that she thought I was a great leader and really thought that I showed potential to be a student manager. And I was like, yeah, I've had managing positions in the past. I do have experience, but I haven't been at the Cub for that long. Do you really think I'd be a good manager? So essentially, I did end up applying, and I went through their interviewing process and training to where I'm at now, which I've been a manager for just about a year now.
Yeah. How many days of work, how many days a week, oh my gosh, how many days a week would you say that you usually work? And, what are the average hours per week? Yeah,
so I am mandated 2 hours or 2 days that I have to work manager shifts. So throughout the week, we have 2 different manager shifts a day. One is from 3:30 to 7:30, and one is 7:30 to 11:30. So I work 2 of the 7:30 to 11:30 shifts. One is Monday evenings, and one is Wednesday evenings. So that there is about 8 hours that I already work. And then in addition to that, I normally work at least 1 shift during the weekend, which those ones are closer to 7 hours just because we split that day directly in half. So it's like 7 and 7. Definitely long days, but you can get a lot of schoolwork done while you're working there, which I really, really appreciate. Also, one of the reasons I wanted an on-campus job was because it is a desk job, and there's not always something for you to do, too. So there's a lot of time that you can sit down, get homework done, and just do whatever you need to do at the desk.
Yeah. Kind of connecting it to the sorority and, what you've done within the sorority. What kind of leadership skills have you taken? And I know Luke's looking at me, and I'm actually going to abandon that. I'm going to leave that for him because we love Mr. Leadership back there. But obviously we're talking about your education and why you chose SHIP. So what's your major? You have a minor. And, what do you want to do with that, graduating college?
Yeah, so kind of finding where my major has been a little challenge for me. I came to Shippensburg essentially as an early education major, which I quickly changed to business management, just because I do like teaching people a lot, but I felt like it would be better in a management position. And so I have now changed my major once again to psychology with a minor in business. So essentially I would like to do HR management kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure where I want to do it, but I know I want to do something in human resources.
I mean, you could always use your connection at Hershey.
Yes.
We have a brother of Justin Reese who works at Hershey. Makes it his whole personality, I tell you. But you should have seen Luke's face back there when you said that you were business management. Oh my gosh, he looked like he was going to run through a wall. But what made you change it? Like, obviously, it's kind of intimidating. Like, I came into college with a comm major. I still am. I plan on keeping it until I graduate. So what made you change it? And, like, I feel like that's kind of intimidating of, like, you're on your third major. So, like, it gets a little scary because, like, at the end of the day, you don't want to be here for, like, 7 years.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a little scary, definitely, like, knowing that this is my third major that I'm on. However, I feel like where I'm at right now is definitely more where I want to be. I was doing a little research one night because I essentially picked a major that I thought I could get a career in. But I felt like I needed to do it the opposite way, so pick the career and see what majors would be good for that. Mm-hmm. So as much as human resources absolutely still is 100% business, I wanted to keep the business somehow because I've already done that work, I've already done all those classes, and I was actually able to switch my major to a minor that was already complete because of all the business classes I've already taken. And then adding on the psychology major, that's a big change, and I have no classes towards that whatsoever yet, so that'll be very fresh for me. But essentially I did that just so that I could be better with people, which I thought would definitely be beneficial for human resources. Right.
You said you mentioned you haven't taken any psychology classes. Have you not taken Psych 101 yet?
I did take Psych 101, yes. I took that for a gen ed.
Was it able to transfer?
It was, yeah. That's the only one I have taken so far, though. I haven't taken any of their major classes yet.
So what are you should be a second semester sophomore right now?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you have to add any extra time, or are you still online or still on track for a 2027 graduation?
Yeah, so from what I'm aware, I am on track. I've done a few credits here and there from high school or just over the summer, over the winter. So I'm actually just a few credits ahead, but that shouldn't put me back too far. I know all the credits that I have taken are either transferring over as a free elective or have already gone to my program of study. So I don't really have to worry too much about changing that graduation date.
Yeah, well, it was great talking to you, and now I'm going to transition over to Mr. Luke Hillegass. He's going to have a lot of things in terms of leadership to talk about.
So, yeah, when I was sitting over there, you have a lot of leadership experience, and I feel like this is going to be definitely one of the most interesting conversations I've gotten to have. So I'll just start it off simple. What, out of all the things that you were involved in, what experience do you think requires the most leadership?
I would say definitely I'm vice president for our rugby club right now, so that definitely requires a crazy amount of leadership. I mean, we have to definitely take charge of the team. Like I was saying, without a coach also, it's very hard to get everybody organized at times, so definitely stepping up and saying, hey, this is when practice is going to be, this is what we're doing. Making that set schedule is something that was one of my responsibilities this year, which was very, very hard and time-consuming, but definitely gave me a lot of leadership experience.
So were you, for the rugby team, in charge of, like, the organizational components as the vice president, so, like, the scheduling, setting practice times, that kind of stuff?
So I do a little bit more with fundraising and our social media aspect, things like that. I do manage our calendar, so I kind of just put everything that was given to me on there. So our practice times have been set for years now, and that's just a time that is dedicated to club sports. We do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3:45 to 5:45, if anybody's interested in joining. But we had that set schedule, so that's something that our girls who are coming back to play for a second, a third, whatever time, they know that schedule, and they know kind of already to schedule their classes around that, because that's not changing. So that was something that I had to do for our calendar. But I also help a lot with our committees. So we run a social media account. I have a bunch of people who do different designs that'll send it to me, and that's on my responsibility to post them. I also do a lot with fundraising too. So we have a fundraiser coming up next week in the Cub that we're super excited for, and I do a little bit with that, but we do have a committee chair head who does fundraising, so she's super good at that, does really great fundraisers for us.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like there's a lot of responsibility with that, and certainly sounds like there's a lot of leadership involved. But I kind of want to transition into the job you have here at the Cub. So you said that you were a student manager. I know you touched on it a little bit, but what kind of leaders, how many employees would you oversee in that with your job here?
Yeah, so whenever I am doing a manager shift, I normally sit at like the back desk. If you're facing the information desk, there's a big desk in the back, double monitor. I feel all fancy sitting back there. So that's the manager normally on duty. Then in the front of the information desk, there's two I guess you could call them receptionists, but they normally are answering the phones, unlocking rooms, and each day they're given a setup that they have to complete too. So sometimes we pull in extra people for those setups, so it can be up to 6 people at the desk at a time, but that's very not likely. It's normally max 2 to 3. And then we also oversee the game zone. So we have one person who's stationed in there who's in control of that entire room. So I just oversee them also. And then we also have a tech crew. So any event that's going on in the MPR, anything that's going on in Orndorff Theater, anything like that, our tech people are on for projectors, for microphones, for anything that the groups might need that's technology-wise.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Through my understanding, you would be overseeing all operations within the Cub besides like the food stuff, right?
Yep, yeah. So the food is all run through Aramark, which is the same that the dining hall uses. So they have their own set of employees, their own management, and we don't do pretty much anything with them. We just make sure that the areas look nice, the chairs are put back where they're all supposed to go at the end of the day, lights are off at the end of the night. But traditionally, normally the manager is supposed to be the last one in the building, but normally Aramark employees are there a little bit later just because they do have to clean up and things like that. So they have that responsibility of their own too. And
you would have a large part in all the events that go on within the Cub, like you said, setup and stuff. So again, if you want to touch on the leadership involved in that to kind of get all of the employees together and do it in the way that you're supposed to and a productive way, because I'm sure that when there's multiple big events in one day, that can get hectic for sure. So if you want to touch on some of the things that you've done, to make sure that operation becomes productive.
Yeah, so each day, every shift, they all have a different setup. So we're given a piece of paper, and that's normally made by our associate director of the Cub, Travis Houts. So he will give that to us, normally along with a diagram also. So we know what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to be placing things within either the MPR. We've done Cub Room 119. We've done all sorts of different rooms in the Cub that we have to essentially set up and tear down. And you did mention a key part that we do have large events that are sometimes back-to-back, and we do need to change those really quickly. Yeah. I do appreciate that they don't normally do 2 events in one day. It can be overnight, though. It can be within 2 days. And something as big as a APB setup to where you need the room to be completely clear or have a few little cocktail tables, that can take up to 4 people. So that's why we have our extra event setup crew also. So they'll come in and they'll help us reset this entire room so we can get it done within an hour or two. But definitely there is a part of checking to make sure that that setup is complete. So as the manager on duty, that is one of my responsibilities. After the setup is complete, I just need to go up, confirm with what's on the paper is what's in the room. Because if it's all out of sort and that group comes in the next day and it's still out of sort, we're going to have to do a big change, and it's definitely can be time consuming to do that change.
I mean, yeah, I've obviously as somebody that works like closely with the Cub with all the overseeing fundraising for an entire year and doing all the fundraisers at the Cub. I've definitely been curious to see how the operation goes, because I know that the 1 week that we had Philanthropy Week, we did an event every single day that week, and I was like, this has got to be annoying for them. So, yeah, I was just curious. But the transition into something else, you said that you were a business management major. How long were you a business management major?
So I have been a business management major pretty much since I came to Shippensburg. So I was declared as at my admission as a early education major, but very quickly before I even came to college was trying to change it into a business management, just because I knew I wanted to do something related to business. And I, like I was saying, I have a lot of leadership skills, and I do want to be able to apply them in some kind of management position.
Exactly.
And I was a business management major up until just recently, right before class scheduling. So within the past month or so, I've been since I came in 2023. So for about 2 years.
Yeah, so like that is very similar to my path, because I also came in as an education major. I stuck it out for a year, and then I realized that that just is not something I wanted to do. So I switched to management. So that, yeah, my head almost exploded over there when you said that you were management and you have all these leadership skills. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to fit everything I want to talk about into 15 minutes. But so you still have a minor in business, correct?
I do, yes. So I already did all of the requirements for my minor, so I was like, it would be silly not to keep it, especially because I've heard a lot of things with having a psych major. You'll need to go for either a second degree or have some kind of more experience, because it can be challenging. So I figured with keeping the business minor, that would definitely be helpful to say, I have taken these business classes. I was a business minor at business major at one point, but now I am a psychology major with a business minor.
How do you plan to integrate all the leadership experience you have into a psych major? I know you have that business minor, but like, what is something that you're looking to get into? I know you mentioned HR. I think that'd be really good for a psych major with a business minor, but like, have you thought of other avenues with that setup? Because especially with all the experience that you have being a leader, I'm sure that there's so many things that you could get into. If I don't know how deep you've looked into it, but it's definitely something that I would see as interesting. So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so whenever I was debating changing to psych, I've always had that counseling aspect in my mind at some point. So that was kind of just almost as a backup idea, just because I love talking to people and I feel like I have a very personable person. So I got the psych just because it does teach you about person skills, but it also teaches you about how people think, how people react to things, lots of different diagnoses, which I'm constantly interested by. So I did decide psych just so that I thought it would be better to be able to communicate with people to understand how they're feeling. Essentially, I want to be able to do training or hiring, things like that through human resources. So definitely having that experience with psych and those communication skills. I have taken a communications class at Shippensburg as a prerequisite, and I thought that was super helpful as well. But all of that combined, I just was like, I think psychology is the best pathway that I can go. There's definitely different places that I can go. If I decide human resources isn't for me, I could definitely try out counseling, because I do have that psych minor, and I've already psych major, and I've already considered going for a master's. So that's not necessarily off the charts yet for me.
I mean, yeah, I've always considered adding a psych minor or a communications minor to my management degree, and if I went communications, get into sales, stuff like that, like sales management, and then if I did psych, some sort of management of I don't know, I don't know, like some sort of thing like that. But is there a reason that you didn't just add the psych minor and you completely switched over to psych? Do you see like more opportunity within the psychology field than the management field, or did you just feel like you wanted to switch it up and just integrate everything that you've done here at SHIP into one thing?
I feel like for me, I more asked myself what kind of classes do I see myself in. So currently I'm taking an accounting class, and I'm like, what am I going to use accounting for what I want to do? Human resources, I don't really think that's too much accounting. And I was looking more ahead on my degree audit, seeing what kind of classes I was taking. I'm like, these don't interest me.
Yeah.
This isn't what I want to do. I mean, there's some management, but it's not all management. It's a lot of business, too. So I was like, okay, let me go over to psych. Let me check out what classes they offer. And a lot of it is like childhood development or adolescence and elder, like things like that, which I'm like, okay, that's more people stuff. That's more emotions, things like that. And that's exactly what I want to do. More people, basically.
Yeah. Because like there is psychology-based classes within management that you have to take. I know it's a business core class, but organizational behavior talks a lot about like how your employees react to certain things you do and how you can reason with them within that psychology mindset.
I actually am enrolled in organizational behavior right now. It's one of my favorite classes I have with my advisor, Dr. Goetz, right now. And that definitely has kind of helped me say that I wanted to do more psychology just from his lectures and from his way of teaching. I really do respect that class a lot and have a lot of interest for what's being taught. And
Absolutely,
I do like it a lot.
Yeah, I took that class a year ago, I think. I think it was spring of last year, and it was like different than what the normal business classes are, because like I had Dr. Hargrove, and the first day he's like, this is not your normal business class. Like, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can apply it to business, but a lot of it is how your employees are going to react to the decisions you make. And like, it was probably one of my favorite classes I've taken here, and I've already added it to my leadership style. And then I'm taking a leadership class right now. It's literally called Leadership for Business, and that also is very psychology based, a little less in organizational behavior. It focuses more on like the actual application to business and how you can lead within business, but then it also talks about what your followers are going to do when you make a certain decision and how they're going to react, and managing that. But yeah, I definitely think that there's always been a little bit in me that's thought about the psychology side within business, because that is so important, and especially with being a leader, knowing how to reason with the people that you're leading is so important, and I feel like it's so overlooked. But there's one thing that we haven't got to talk about yet, and I'm sure we're going to take a break here in 1 second. But if you want to briefly touch on, have you ever considered taking a leadership position within Phi Sig? Because you've had so much experience, and like I'm sure that they could use that experience, but I'm sure at one point like you're like, okay, I can't take any more responsibility on. Like, I have too much on my plate. Have you thought about that at all?
I have, yes. So applications came out last year and for our executive board, and I really did consider doing that, but I just ultimately decided I am very involved within the Pan-Hellenic Council and a lot of other aspects around campus that I thought that having a leadership position within my own organization would be a little difficult, and I'm not sure if that was necessarily something that I would like to continue with.
Well, Ashlynn, I'm jumping in now back to me, so I subbed Luke out just because we're going to transition to our final part of the show. Again, you're listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg University's campus with Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, Luke Hillegass, and this week our special guest, Ashlynn Gill. So we always end the show with a simple comment, and that is, what questions do you have for us? What's on your mind?
Well, I know I asked you a little bit earlier, but what inspired you guys to start Greek Speak? I mean, you guys are very involved around campus. I see you everywhere. I know, Luke, I mentioned to you all the time about how many keys you're getting out at the information desk. So what inspired you to do Greek Speak?
Well, I think it was mainly Andrew's idea at first, where you kind of talked about having a radio show where you talk about Greek life, and being involved in student media like both of us are. And I've been with the Public Relations Student Society of America and the Slate for a while. Having a chance to get some radio experience, I thought was something that'd be worthwhile. So we thought about the idea. We talked with the general manager here at the station, Jenna Cornell, about it, and she was very much supportive of the idea, and so was Bridget Allen, who, of course, we talked about last week. She is no longer at the university, unfortunately, but she was very supportive of our thought process behind making the show. She told us, like, well, here's the things you need to think about before you do it. So we ironed out those details, and we started it and just kind of been running with it since. Last fall was kind of a slow start for us, in my opinion, just because we really only had guests from Kappa Sigma. We didn't do enough external outreach, and that was a project that Andrew worked on over winter break to kind of get that going. And I can say this semester we have had, I think, only 3 brothers from Kappa Sigma. Obviously, it's great to have still some representation from our chapter, but I feel like we've had a more equitable distribution as far as how our guests are. But it has been a joy to be on this show, but I know Luke and Andrew, they have their own thoughts on that matter, too. So Andrew's going to speak next, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashlyn. That's a great question. And it really does go back to Luke and I just sitting down, and we had a vision. The vision was to bring Greek life together. Man, I feel like I'm promoting a Marvel movie right now. But, the whole point was to bring Greek life together and shine it, shine a different light on it and different perspectives. And that's why Luke ended up coming aboard. Was he ended up bringing that leadership aspect, which is really, really important, because at the end of the day, we're all students. We're all here to get degrees. We're all here to move on in our lives and get jobs. So my point on the show is to show what Greek life can do for you in terms of your future. But, it's been a great run. We're going to continue doing it. But, I just wanted to bring Greek life together and kind of bridge the gap. I mean, it's been really cool having, you're now the third Phi Sig sister in here this semester. And as Luke said, last semester was kind of a common criticism of us that it was Kappa Speaks. But I think we've gotten away from that, and we're going to continue to get away from that. But, yeah, just being able to just talk and, have some fun, engaging conversations.
Yeah, I think this question is a little different for me because I did come on after they started it.
What made you want to join them?
Yeah, so they interviewed me. I think I was I was the third guest on the show. So they interviewed me, and then after I was like, man, I kind of want to do that again. And then a semester went on, I believe, and then I think in the spring, it was this semester. They asked me. Rainey had to move away for a little bit and do some other things. So they're like, "Would you want to help co-host with us?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And I felt like there was a lot of different angles that I could provide because they are really involved within campus in other avenues where my expertise, so to speak, kind of lays within Greek life. And I'm on IFC, and I hold. I was the treasurer. I'm about to be the president of Kappa Sigma. So I definitely have a lot of experience within Greek life specifically. So I feel like and within leadership. So I feel like the things I talk about on the show can definitely add a lot of value, different from what Rainey and Drew talk about. So I was just interested to come on and see what I could add. And I loved it so far, so I really hope that they want me to come on again next semester, and I definitely will do that if they want.
Yeah, I've really appreciated the podcast that you guys have put on. I know I've mentioned to a lot of you that I love to listen to it. Every episode I listen to. And I think you guys are doing what you essentially made Greek Speak to be. I think that you've brought on a bunch of different Greek organizations, and it's been very fun getting to know and learn about the other people in Greek life, how our chapters are all a little bit different from one another, and just overall what Greek is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, there's nuances that occur in each chapter. That's been a really valuable part of this semester's conversations, at least. But beyond that, anything else that's on your mind for us?
Not necessarily that I can think of right now.
Okay, well, I think you had talked about it earlier a little bit, but what do you have going on this summer, and what do you have, like, again, last 2 weeks for the semester? What's the short-term future looking like for you?
Yeah, so this summer I will actually be staying within Shippensburg. I have an internship with a company called Burnside America down in Chambersburg. They are a hydraulic press distribution site, but they also do a little bit of building them there too. So I will be interning actually with one of our former advisors, Angie Morrissey.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very special to me. She offered me this position, and I'm really excited to get started there with her this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When's your first day?
I'm actually starting probably closer to June 1st, possibly the week before. She's very flexible with me, which I really, really appreciate, as I'm trying to get everything sorted out with my lease and where I'm going to be living after the dorms close, since I do have to go back to Hershey. But I am thinking probably starting within that last week of May.
I think those details, they'll come about as they need to.
Absolutely.
So, like, you'll get your answers figured out. But it is nice once you have finals, you have a little bit of time to slow down for it. But I can tell you, I lived in Shippensburg last summer during my internship. Having an internship in this area is a lot of fun because there are other people who are in the same boat. They're going to be around this summer. And that's how I got super close with people in Kappa Sigma. That experience made a huge difference. And this summer I'm going to be in Washington D.C. actually, so
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. But I'm definitely going to be missing home a little bit. I think for the 3 months I'll be down there. But it is going to be an incredible experience. So I am very much looking forward to it. But all that to be said, again, wish you the best of luck in your internship, and hopefully you learn a lot and you get to do a lot in it too. But as far as the listeners at home, we thank all of you for listening to this week's episode of Greek Speak. We'll be back next week for the final episode of the year, which is unbelievable to think about. So that'll be on Friday, May 2nd. So hope all of you tune in for that one. But again, we thank all of you for listening today. And until next Friday, we will see all of you later.